Happy Tuesday, and welcome back to another exciting special episode of the Rocketeer Minute, a show where each and every day, Monday through Friday, we've been going through every single minute of probably Disney's greatest adventure, the 1991 Joe Johnston directed feature, The Rocketeer. I'm one of your hosts, Jim O'Kane of TVDads.com.
And I'm Hal Bryan, an airplane nerd from the Experimental Aircraft Association here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Now, Jim, when a lot of shows would say special episode, they usually mean we're tackling some big issue like, teen drug use or something. But when we say, oh, wait, I think I hear it.
You're listening to a special Joe Johnston episode of the Rocketeer Minute. Once again, here are Hal Bryan, Jim O'Kane, and director Joe Johnston.
Yeah, that's what it pretty much sounds like. I think it's another Joe Johnston episode, which is like saying, yeah, sure, another day. But fortunately, Director Joe Johnston has come back to talk some more and give us some inside skinny on one of our favorite. Well, it is our favorite movie. Let's just admit it right now. But Joe, thank you for coming back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And really, if I had a top 5 list of favorite movies, Joe, you've worked on at least 6 of them. I don't know how I don't know how the math works, but what a real privilege and pleasure it is to have you back.
Thank you.
Now, just as we were wrapping up yesterday's episode, after we finished recording, you were teasing me a little bit, both of us really, but about you said you had a story about the GB and the Rocketeer.
Yeah, the GB. When we had just started prep on the Rocketeer, we found a GB that was for sale down in Riverside. A friend of Bill Turner had built this thing, and it was a replica, obviously, but it was made to pretty exacting specifications of the actual GB, except that the aileron flutter had been dealt with, and the thing was for sale at an airport in Riverside, and it was even painted the right colors. It was black and yellow, and I went to Disney and I said, guys, this is the only airworthy example of this airplane in the world. Let's buy it. And it was the seller only wanted $25,000 for this plane. Wow. I said, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It is officially for sale. So, of course, Disney being this giant corporation, the permission to buy this plane had to cross, several different people's desks before it was approved that we could buy this airplane. So I said, somebody's going to swoop in and buy this. And it had only been for sale for 2 days. I said, somebody's going to buy this airplane. And then what are we going to do? We're going to have to build a fake one that doesn't fly and all this stuff. So without telling them what I was going to do, I went and bought the plane myself. So, it was $25,000. And I figured, I'll make my money off this thing. So then I... 6 weeks later, when they finally approved the sale, I said, okay, I'll sell you the plane. I should have sold it to them for $50,000, but, I didn't want to irritate anybody at the studio, so I got exactly what I paid for it. But for 6 weeks, I owned a GB.
Wow.
And, I sat in it a couple of times and pretended to be flying it, but that's as far as I wanted to go.
That is amazing. I think the story generally goes that the production company bought it and things like this, but you actually owned it personally.
I owned it for about 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, one thing you can clear up for us, or hopefully you can clear up for us, the second GB at the very end of the movie is negotiating its way past the Bulldog Cafe.
Yes.
And Hal had a question about whether or not that wasn't a functioning GB, that it may have had electric motors in the wheels, or
it had an electric motor to spin the prop. I don't think it had motors in the wheels, but I think that we might have, I don't know how we motivated it. It might have been pushed or towed or something. It didn't have to travel very far, but it was built by this company that builds replicas for display purposes only. And it wasn't a real aircraft. It would, it was, what it did was about everything it could do.
Right.
But it looked great.
Oh, it was fantastic looking,
Yeah.
and
And it
just,
sounded good, thanks to the post sound designer. But,
Absolutely.
yeah.
yeah, it's just stunning.
So, Joe, you mentioned having to sit in the GB, and of course, owning it for a while, and recognizing that that sort of perfect time and place, that great serendipity of being able to get a hold of that airplane. Do you have any experience or background in aviation? Because you make movies like somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Well, I used to fly ultralights.
Oh, no kidding.
In the 80s, yeah. I had an American aircraft Falcon, or I'm sorry, an Eagle, which
Eagle,
is,
yeah.
And then I sold that and I got a Falcon, and I had the Falcon for about 10 years, and I put about I think about 3,000 hours on it.
Wow.
And when we shot Always, the miniature stuff for Always, we were out on an airfield in Tracy, California, and I took my Falcon out there, and it was we only had to get a couple of shots a day because it was all practical stuff. There weren't any, there was no CG in that either. That was 1989, and so I'd get out there in the morning and I'd fly around, Central California for an hour and a half before we had to get any work done. So I really had a great time on that too. But yeah, I've always loved aviation. I never got my pilot's license. I just had the ultralight certificate. But I've had a lot of fun in the air.
Wow. Well, it's never too late, And
yeah, I know. Well,
it goes without saying, if you ever want to get totally immersed in it and come on out to Oshkosh for our big fly-in.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Open invitation, red carpet treatment. I'll even let Jim come along if you want, Jim.
Great.
You can let him sit in the Spirit of St. Louis up there.
There you go.
Oh, we can get you up on all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah. Hal's got the keys. They're in
That's right.
Okay,
I just got my first 20 minutes left seat in a B-17 about a week ago. So
Really?
I'm
Wow.
pretty happy about that.
Wow, that's great. Well, I am a member of the Commemorative Air Force with
excellent.
Out here in Camarillo. So
Sure.
I had my time in the Texas Trainer and all that, but
Oh, nice.
in the back seat, of course.
Did you do much flying during production? I mean, when they were during the camera, did you fly with any of the camera planes at all, or?
No, I really didn't. There was so much other stuff to do that that I didn't really get up in the air. I think I went up in the helicopter once when we were shooting that opening sequence with the GB, where it's out, before he comes into contact with Lenny and the machine gun and all that stuff. But just that one time, it was. I had other duties on the picture.
Yeah, quite a number of plates on sticks going on at the same time. I would imagine the one that probably took the most work from you from just an interior production, I would think, would be the South Seas Club. That must have been quite a bit of work.
It was great, and again, I have to give most of the credit there to Jim Bissell, who, again, sort of using Dave Stevens' images as a jumping off point. He designed the club, and he sort of designed it around the action that had to take place in the club itself. But I think he did a fantastic job.
What was casting a difficult work? I mean, when you found Billy, he obviously was the right one for the job. But it seemed like you went through a couple of different Jannies, and I'm not sure if the other characters that you're working on with, with like trying to find the right Neville, or was that a big difficult part?
I don't remember the casting as being a difficult process. It was. I think we ended up with such a great cast. I wouldn't change anyone in the cast. I mean, I didn't have a list of favorites that I wanted. I mean, other than who we ended up with, and especially Billy Campbell. He was almost like he stepped out of the pages of Dave Stevens' novel, graphic novel. I mean, he was just perfect in so many ways.
Billy had told us the story that Johnny Depp was originally chosen, but then he decided to step out. And how far into that were you, or how realistic was that of having Johnny Depp as the Rocketeer?
I think I don't know how serious it was. I think that we were sort of exploring the possibility, but we went and met with Johnny Depp while he was shooting Edward Scissorhands, and it was one of the. I mean, and he was in costume. We went over there for lunch.
Oh my gosh!
At where would that have been shooting? It was at Fox. I'm not sure where we went. Well, we went to a studio for lunch, and they had been shooting the film. Johnny Depp came out in his outfit he didn't have the scissor hands on, but he had everything else, and he couldn't eat lunch because he would mess up his makeup, I guess, but it was Jeffrey Katzenberg and me and I think David Hoberman and Johnny Depp. And before we sat down for lunch, Jeffrey said, "Well, if you like him, ask for the salt or something. Ask me to pass the salt." And what? It's like
Shoving your left ear in,
It was like a scene out of some spy movie or something. I said, okay. So, and I did like Johnny Depp. I thought he was. I mean, how could you tell? He's got this Edward Scissorhands makeup and this crazy hair. He didn't look anything like the Rocketeer, but I did like him. And so I was gonna ask Jeffrey to pass the salt, and I looked up, and the salt was sitting right in front of me, like 6 inches away. So I'm thinking, how do I do this? I could hand him the salt like he asked for it, but. So anyway, we just talked after lunch, and we had a laugh about it. But I think Johnny Depp decided it wasn't something that he wanted to do next, and that was okay. It was we ended up with I think a perfect Rocketeer.
Yeah, but you would have had the most amazing behind the scenes documentary if anybody had been following you with a camera for that.
Oh God, it was just ridiculous.
Another thing that's always puzzled us is I understand Disney didn't see the Rocketeer as a success. They didn't, they broke even, but not much beyond. Mm-hmm. But they seem to have kind of forgotten about it for decades, and even to the point when any time like a re-release from when the first DVD came out or when the Blu-ray came out, there are no special features on it. Nobody, they don't even bother with. I've forgotten the name of the TV special, but they don't even bother putting that onto it, and it just seemed to have. It's kind of like an orphan, and they seem to be coming back to it now. But every time we talk to people like Disney Imagineers, The Rocketeer is one of their favorite Disney movies of all time, and I've just never been able to understand that disconnect.
Well, I think it was all about money, which is fair. I mean, it's the motion picture industry,
Yeah.
But I never blame marketing, if a picture doesn't work, because I think if a movie's great, an audience will find it, and I think an audience did find The Rocketeer. It just took a couple of decades.
Yeah.
But there was a question about the one sheet for The Rocketeer, which was really the only image that you remember, and it was that fantastic sort of Art Deco.
Oh yeah.
Shot of the Rocketeer, flying at this, 45-degree angle, beautifully done. But some people question whether it gave the perception that this was an animated film, and one that for people who didn't want to go see an animated film. I don't know. It'd be hard to understand how someone could see the what marketing there was out there for The Rocketeer and think it's animated, but who knows? But it's there's still talk of a sequel. I keep hearing, or a reboot.
Yeah, there was something about that yesterday that just kind of popped up.
Yeah.
There's yet another one, and I'm one of the other things. People go around what went wrong with the Rocketeer. They go over the first words on the screen say Walt Disney Pictures, and the availability of using Touchstone instead might have helped it, because it was considered Walt Disney kids movie, which it is a kids movie to me, but it's also for adults as well.
Yeah.
But you had the experience with Touchstone in the front of Hidalgo, and I don't know if that helped or hindered it either.
I don't know. It's really hard to say. I mean, a lot of it is, I think, is sort of, what the audience is in the mood for when a picture comes out. I think that hurt Hidalgo a little bit. It was about this race that takes place in the Middle East, and there was a lot of controversy and a lot of stuff going on regarding the Middle East at that time, and is it just something that people didn't want to see? But who knows?
By the way, stunning movie. I don't know if I'm sure a lot of people have told you that, but I'm always amazed at the horse scenes, and just the epic nature of it was fantastic. I enjoyed it years ago, and I really need to watch it again because I just remember I had a great time watching that movie.
Viggo Mortensen did all his own stunts.
Wow.
In fact, he did a couple of things that the stunt guys tried and failed at, and he like riding bareback at the end of the race.
Really?
One of the stunt guys tried it and fell off, and Viggo he basically he wanted to do all his own stunts too. He really insisted, but he's an amazing horseman. Really is.
And so many. Most of that was they were floor effects, right? They were practical effects. You had, scenes with the ships and stuff. I know would be CG, but but really it's all live action happening in front of you. Just gorgeous work.
Thank you.
As you were saying, with the audience, it wasn't the time for the Rocketeer. But do you think? That time kind of arrived when coincided with Captain America appearing, because it's you could say it's a similar movie, or it's kind of the Godfather of Captain America.
I think that there are similarities. As much in tone as anything else. I think that the tone is very similar. It's Captain America is a little darker here and there, but I think that they both feel like they're sort of out of the same factory, which I guess would be my factory. I don't know.
Well, you did manage, and this is not my thought, but a good mutual friend of Hal and mine, Brian Fees, that brought this up, that you did manage to bring back the good hero, the hero that's in the Rocketeer and Captain America, someone who has a moral rectitude that hasn't been seen since like Christopher Reeve and Superman. It's just you have a good guy who's actually a good guy. He's not a anti-hero.
Well, when Marvel approached me to do Captain America, there was a different script entirely, and I think that they weren't happy with it either. And it took place half in the 40s and half in present day. And I said, I think that what you guys need to do is tell the origin story of Captain America and set the entire thing in the 40s in his time, except for the bookends. And to Kevin Feige's credit, he agreed with me that was a good way to go, and I think he had sort of been lobbying for that anyway. And I think that's the only way to do it. You get one chance to tell the origin story, and I think that it was a good move on everyone's part to set it in the 40s. But I digress. This is not the Captain America minute, is it?
No, it could be for a while. I absolutely adored that picture as well. Building again just a little bit on you're talking about this concept of the good hero, and we talked a bit yesterday about your affection for the 30s, and of course Captain America more very early 40s in the beginning there. One of the things that that I like about that era, and I'm curious if this appeals to you as well, is the fact that reflected in those great designs and that amazing music and the whole aesthetic across that era, there was an underlying current of optimism. And you brought to life, again, Captain America, you brought to life the Stark Expo, the kind of the equivalent of the 39 World's Fair in New York. And that was, to me, that was almost the pinnacle of that kind of thinking, is that we're looking ahead to this, the great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and everything sort of gleaming and streamlined. Does that aspect of that era appeal to you?
Well, it does in a way. It was, it's also, the way I look at it is, this is sort of an idealized America. This is what I wish America was still like, in many ways. and I think that that's as much as the period itself. It's sort of the spirit of Americana that is of a bygone era. But I think that it's especially in Captain America, we brought it forward and sort of mixed it with this alternative future. But it's all. But at the heart of it, I think it's about here's a country that in a way no longer exists, and I sort of have a very fond memory of something that I never experienced.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It carries through in another one of Hal and my favorite movies, October Sky, of seeing this
absolutely.
even in a very grim life following Homer Hickham's story, which is so literally uplifting. Mm-hmm. It has basically there are no bad guys in the movie. It's just problems to overcome, mm-hmm. and just wonderful story arcs that I think that's why your movies are so popular and why they remain popular. People come out of the woodwork when we've been putting out these podcasts of how much they feel better about the films and seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
I just do you think it's just harder to make movies like that nowadays, that they're just not?
I think it is. I think that what I try to do is give people hope. And I like movies that have a lot of heart in them. I think it's not necessarily the cool thing to do these days, but I think that it's something that people, given the chance, they'll respond to very much so. And I think that if you can imbue a film with heart and with a message of hope, I think that people will recognize it, and they'll go and they'll see it and they'll tell their friends. And but again, October Sky, it didn't cost much, but it didn't make a lot either. And I think that you just have to find that these films have to find their audience.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like people that I know that have seen October Sky, it's one of those movies that you can recommend to anybody and say, mm-hmm. skip this part, but you'll like the movie. It's just a movie that anybody can recommend to anybody else and watch with any audience, which is a rarity nowadays.
I don't know any male who over the age of 30 who can watch that film and not be reduced to a puddle of tears at the end.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. A question about the Rocketeer. Mm-hmm. If Disney walked up with a sack full of cash and said, "Would you please make the sequel?" Would you do it, or is it ground that you've already covered?
I would do it if it's different enough. I mean, I don't ever want to try to do the same thing twice, which gets me into a lot of trouble with my agents. I've turned down a few things that I just didn't want to repeat myself, because you can only make so many films in a 50-year career or 40-year career, whatever it is, and I just don't want to do the same thing twice, or anything that's perceived as, hey, that's just like that other thing you did,
Yeah, I mean, maybe you just make it as a heartwarm family drama, and the Rocketeer lost his jetpack and stayed home and chatted.
Right.
Well, this has been a fascinating journey into this. We've got a lot more questions, so we will definitely please have you back if that's possible.
Sure.
But there are so many questions, and I'm sure that these shows are going to generate more questions. And if we ever do October Sky Minute, please come back.
Yeah, I will.
I'd
love to talk about October Sky. That was a really interesting experience for me.
It looks very much a labor of love. And well, Hal, I keep doing all the talking. Let me let you gush for a bit more. I know you.
Goodness, gee, Mr. Johnston.
Remember that time you made the Rocketeer?
Yeah, exactly. Remember that time you made every movie I've loved since I was 9?
That's scary.
That was pretty cool. Oh, wait, I wasn't going to do the math.
Yeah, don't do the math.
I'm only 19, I swear. I sound 50, but I get that all the time. Anyway, maybe one quick capper question as we wrap up this episode. We're talking about sort of a hypothetical Rocketeer sequel, but we talked quite a bit about Captain America. And what sort of sense do you get? Do you have any particular feeling or reaction seeing? You obviously didn't invent the character of Captain America, but you set the tone and you established who he was going to be in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then to see that character go on and not in every single one, but sort of somewhere in the thread or in the background or in the forefront of another nearly 20 movies. Any particular feelings about seeing something that you shaped so clearly and so strongly go on and play such a big role in the hands of so many other artists?
Well, obviously that's not what I was thinking when we were making Captain America, but I wanted to create that character in the way that I saw him, and in the way that Chris Evans saw him as well. We totally agreed on how the character should be presented. Here's someone who he doesn't change, even though physically he makes this huge transformation, but who he is as a man doesn't change at all. And I think that for me that was the whole interesting aspect of this character. But Chris Evans' contract is done now, so
right.
They're gonna have to find a new Captain America, I guess, if they continue on with it. But I like seeing that the character continues on and inhabits these other films, these other worlds and everything. It's I don't know. It's like seeing an old friend on the screen, in a whole different guise. So yeah, I like going to see those films, and especially when I get invited to a free screening.
Well, that's got to be nice. Well, it's sure gratifying to hear you say that. You're not sitting back there chomping a cigar and say, I don't care, it was just a paycheck, whatever.
No. Well, it is a paycheck because they have to send me residuals when they use clips from Captain America. So
there you go.
Yeah. A little annuity.
Never leave anything on the table. That's right.
Right.
Well, speaking of which, of other opportunities to use your talents, you're still running Joe Johnston's sketchbook? Is that correct?
I'm not really. I never did actually run it.
Okay.
I had someone who monitored it and was the seller basically, but she has moved on. She's doing something else now. So I don't know if it's even still up.
Okay.
On the internet, but I would like to, have it sort of reinstated, and I'm actually working on a book about my experiences. It's largely the original trilogy, but I touch on some of these other films that I've made, and so I'm hoping that I can get a little free advertising when the book is done.
Well, if when it comes out, you're more than welcome to plug away on our show. And
okay,
I know
great.
Hal is very excited with the closure of the sketchbook because I know all of his recent purchases will have accrued in value. I see.
Well, just make sure you're not buying the counterfeit storyboards. I've found there are a lot of them out there.
That's what I've heard. In fact,
Yeah.
I had no plans of bringing this up, but since I think we're among friends now, I had placed an order on the sketchbook, I think shortly before it sort of changed hands and kind of shut down a bit and moved on. And it was for one of the pieces of the Bigelow Air Circus stationery, and there was an option to have it autographed, and so I humbly requested that it be signed. And about 3 or 4 days later, my money was refunded. And it makes sense now that we're sort of shutting down operations.
Yeah.
And things. I get that, and this is not a complaint, but I've got to confess that I spent about 2 days thinking, what did I say? Why doesn't Joe Johnston like me? I've loved his movies,
He found out about the podcast.
No.
It's over.
Yes, he heard about our little podcast, and now he doesn't like me. What am I going to do?
I never really got involved with the day-to-day workings of the site, and I would get things in the mail to sign.
Oh, okay.
And then I'd send them back. But I I can get in touch with the person who was the seller or the webmaster and find out if anything is going on now. But that's.
Well, I know, Hal. I know you did get a really nice piece, the one with the note on it. Didn't you get? Am I wrong about that? You got the one that said, or was that our friend Jamie?
That I think. Oh, that was probably that was our friend Jamie over in the UK, who's a gifted designer and builder. Who, confession time again, Joe. Jamie is the one who built me my rocket pack. Uh-huh. And so put me in whatever category that puts me in. But anyway, yeah, Jamie had gotten some things. So anyway, but
well, there's a lot of good stuff out there, but
right.
I don't think anybody's bothering to counterfeit Rocketeer stuff. But I get requests from a couple of collector friends of mine. They send me pictures of mostly Star Wars storyboards saying, "Is this real?"
Oh, sure.
And about 75% of the time it is real, but I've seen a few not very convincing counterfeits out there. So just buyer beware.
Right. Well, if you do get the sketchbook back up and running, that was a wonderful site. It was so much fun to browse and look through, and I said so many fascinating artifacts for some absolutely milestone pictures that have had such an impact on all of our culture, certainly mine, over the last few years, let's say.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to hear that I have at least two fans out there. And I would love to come back and do another podcast. I mean, what else am I going to do with this headset?
Oh, awesome! Yeah, well, hooray!
And that is yours to keep. I hope that was
Thank
clear.
you.
That's the way we treat our guests here on the Rocketeer Minute.
Yes, but you have to be
Yes.
on front of the credits. That's where we. Although
yes, exactly.
If we have somebody, and we're still waiting on Jennifer Connelly, but she hasn't written us back, so we're getting down to the.
But she also has never said no.
That's true.
Well, that's
so
good.
Alan Arkin, God bless him, said thank you no through Billy.
Yeah.
But
and Melora Hardin is very thankful that she sang for you when she was a youngster, and that she got into the movie. So we've had many pleasant guests from the show.
That's great.
And we will have more in the future. But again, thank you for being on. And please, everybody, stay tuned, because we will have more shows in the future as we go far beyond the minutes of our original movie. But again, for those of you who haven't listened to our previous spectacular episodes, please check us out on the big site, rocketeerminute.com. You can find us also on Google Play or on what is now known as Apple Podcasts, formerly iTunes. Check us out on social media, on Twitter at Rocketeer Minute, or at the Rocketeer Minute's Bulldog Cafe on Facebook. We will return sometime in the near future, but until then, over and out.